Now, for years and years, and pretty much since the um, inception of the award, the Heisman Trophy has been the quarterback slash running back award. And it's that simple. You just don't see non-quarterbacks, non-running backs win the award. And that's just the way it is. Um, so usually those are the guys that tend to represent the lion's share of the Heisman Trophy finalist every year they get invited to New York. So when you see a guy at a different position have a great college season and be a Heisman finalist and be able to go to New York and take part in the ceremony, you step back and you say, whoa, this dude's got to be something for him to take the place of another quarterback, another running back as a Heisman Trophy finalist. That's impressive stuff. And when you think about DeDe Westbrook and the season he had in 2016 at Oklahoma, it was Heisman Trophy finalist worthy on the field. It most certainly was. So it's not a surprise to me over the past several months, people have been tweeting about him and talking about him and asking me my thoughts on him, where I grade him, where I think he should go, what round he belongs in, what I think of him as a prospect, all of that. There's a lot of hype behind this dude. And you're getting your answer in terms of what I think about him. And the simple fact of the matter is, there's a lot to like about him. That was glaringly obvious to me. And there's frankly some major things to absolutely not like about him. And I think people need to pump the brakes on the hype train on this dude just a little bit. Because when I watch a DeDe Westbrook, I see a guy that was very successful at college, granted with a short span in terms of that production, pretty much honestly a 1 year wonder in a lot of ways. And I see some areas of significant concern as to whether or not what he did at college actually translates to the NFL level. Now, with that said, as I mentioned, there are some things I really, really like about his game. Pretty good quickness, not the most explosive wide receiver in the world, but explosive enough. I think he's actually a little bit faster than he is quick. Once he gets up to his top speed is really, really good. Not world class, but he plays like a guy that would run in the high 4.3s and the low 4.4s, like 4.38 to, or maybe 4.35 to 4.41 type of area. His top end speed is really good. He's the type of guy that once he gets behind you, he will be really hard to tackle and catch up to at the NFL level. So with that quickness and that speed, it naturally gives him an advantage over a lot of defensive backs in the National Football League. But it's more than that. At times you watch him, he's a very smooth player, pretty reliable pass catcher. Frankly, to me, one of the more reliable pass catchers on a consistent basis in 2016 in college football, and one of the more reliable catchers of the football in this draft class. Hands pretty good. I was surprised. A lot of times you get those guys with speed that can't catch. See Will Fuller. But DeDe Westbrook can fly and he can catch. Interesting stuff. He's also a really smooth route runner. He showed a really good feel for finding a weakness in the defense. He does a good job of using his entire body to sell his fakes, to get in and out of his breaks. Very, very advanced for a college player. Not the most expansive route tree, but the routes that he runs, he's really effective with. And I think he's somebody who could learn to run even more routes and run those routes even better at the NFL level. Demonstrated at least a somewhat consistent ability to get separation. His quickness in and out of his cuts and his breaks and his second gear really help him to get open on a relatively consistent basis over the middle or especially deep. While you wonder about the way he was deployed and the type of system they run at Oklahoma, combined with the fact that Big 12 secondaries absolutely stink, you wonder, and you wonder with him, is he going to be able to play against press coverages? He didn't get a lot of that in the Big 12. I still think because of his speed and his quickness and the smoothness of the routes that he runs, he should be able to get open at the NFL level. I could see that translating. For a smaller dude, his catch radius isn't great, but it's okay. It's passable. His run after the catch ability, though, is phenomenal. Not the absolute best in this class, but he's not that far behind as the grading reflects. He's absolutely electric after the catch. His ability to make defenders miss in the open field. He can break ankles. He can cut on a dime. He's a natural runner with that type of explosive big play speed that can take big or small catches and make them into big plays, potentially take them to the house. I like the fact too that he's a wide receiver that runs with some attitude. He doesn't automatically shy away from contact, which at a smaller size might concern you about durability down the road, and we'll get to that. But you have to like players that play with some attitude, and I like to see wide receivers in particular that play with some attitude because you don't always get that out of the position. And while he's not going to break a lot of tackles because of strength or physicality or the attitude that he runs with, he's the type of guy that maybe you'd feel on a 3rd and 6, you throw the ball over the middle. He's not going to alligator arm your ass. And he's going to be the type of guy that catches the ball 2 yards short of the yard to gain or the line to gain, and he's actually going to try and lower his shoulder and get that first down. Or he can make somebody miss and get the first down. It's an incredible ability to run after the catch. So you look at some of those traits and characteristics on him, and you sit there and say, man, this guy could be a difference maker at the NFL. And potentially, based off of the way he's deployed, the system he's utilized in, the coach that he has, the coordinator, the play caller that he has, he could be an impact player. But there are some things about him that really scare me and really make me pause for concern. And henceforth, as a result, you see it reflected in his grading that I'm probably not as high on him as maybe a lot of others. First, you got to look at his size. What is he, 5'11", maybe 170 pounds soaking wet? The simple fact of the matter is, this is just not a big guy, and a lot of receivers with that type of size profile do not really translate well to the NFL level, in today's game especially. So you have to worry about that lack of size. He's under 6 foot. He's not even like 190 pounds. I mean, the dude's as tall as me and probably 30 pounds lighter, and I'm not even in shape anymore. That just lets you know how skinny this kid is and how rail thin and frankly frail his body is. You really have to wonder if he can hold up at the NFL level. That's a major concern. On top of that, durability. He has a history of lower body injuries. This is a kid who had his small intestines ruptured while he was in high school. It almost killed him. And this is where that lack of frame, that lack of bulk and muscle can really cause you concern, because he's the type of guy is that every time he takes a big hit from a linebacker or a safety or even a corner over the middle, he's going to get concussion or he's going to have this problem or that problem. Is he going to be the type of guy whose body just can't hold up to 16 games? He's going to be very frail, and you're going to be having to limit how you utilize him sometimes to try and keep him healthy. I mean, there's some major durability concerns, but on top of that, I think you also have some significant concerns when it comes to the intangibles. Apparently people didn't find out about the multiple accusations of domestic violence until after he got to New York as a Heisman Trophy finalist. Oopsie daisies. In a league where all of a sudden now they supposedly give a shit about domestic violence, but typically only give a shit about the domestic violence if a bad-looking video is actually released. These are multiple accusations. Granted, several years back, and we don't necessarily know all the details, but at the end of the day, multiple accusations. You really have to be concerned about it. A guy that didn't academically qualify for a Division I schools out of high school. So does that come down to he didn't take himself and his craft and his schoolwork seriously? Are there potential issues in terms of learning, in terms of being able to pick up an NFL playbook, which is going to be much more complex than the simplified type of system that he was a part of at Oklahoma? While he has some impact in the return game, you're also talking about a kid with a rail thin frame, with a history of injuries, that's going to be 24 in his rookie season. A 24-year-old wide receiver. How high do you want to take that guy, especially when you factor in all the other baggage? Now, Cooper Kupp is going to be 24 years old as a rookie, but he doesn't have this baggage. And frankly, he's a more well-rounded player than DeDe Westbrook. DeDe Westbrook has some things, again, that really, really make you pause for concern in terms of how he's going to translate to the NFL level. And I also have some concerns because of his size or his lack of size, that he's going to be primarily a slot guy. And what happens if those slot guys get up and press him? I just don't know how well or effective he is going to be against breaking the press or beating the press. It's entirely different than playing at Oklahoma, playing against those crappy Big 12 secondaries and playing in a system that manufactures separation. Is he going to be able to separate consistently against the physicality of some corners, press and bump and run corners? That remains to be seen. Now, I look at him, his final grade to me was an 82.0, which means he's a mid to late third round talent. And, some of that definitely has to do with some of the off the field concerns. And while are in the past, they're still there. And something you still have to answer for. And, what's going to happen if this guy gets money and gets some of the fame that comes with playing in the NFL? Is he going to fall off the wagon? He shouldn't be damned forever for the past, but it is a part of who he is. And it's something he's going to have to answer for. And it does have to impact his draft grade. Because some teams aren't going to want to touch a guy like this. I bet you some teams will probably remove him off their draft boards entirely. Because he's just not going to fit their system in terms of what they want at wide receiver. They're going to have concerns about his frame and his durability. And then you throw in the off the field shit. He's got some real baggage there. And that can be undersold. Now, if you're talking about late in day 2 in round 3, he's the type of guy you gamble on. You feel good about gambling on him because he could potentially play like a first-round pick. He also is not a first-round pick, so you won't get quite as much negative attention for taking a guy with multiple off-the-field incidents that revolve around domestic violence. You got to think about those things. But he's the type of guy in round 3 that you see certain traits or characteristics, and you say those can translate to the NFL and translate very, very well. And he's the type of guy you want to gamble on and hope that he has grown up and matured, now coming into the league as a 24-year-old, and you hope that his better days are ahead of him. In terms of an NFL comparison, though, I was torn between two, and they're both Seattle Seahawks, Tyler Lockett and Paul Richardson. I think he's smooth like Tyler Lockett, especially as a route runner. I think he's got more of the quickness and especially speed of a Paul Richardson, and in particular that kind of rail-thin frame that both of those guys have. So in terms of comparison, it's kind of a hybrid of the two. Guys that struggle to stay healthy, but when they are healthy, they can contribute and they can make an impact. They can make some big plays happen. But that's always going to be the challenge, is keeping them healthy and keeping them on the field. It's that simple. So when I look at DeDe Westbrook, would it surprise me somebody gambled on him later round 2? No. Would it also surprise me that based off of the questions about his frame and his durability and the off-the-field shit, that he lasted until the early portion of day number 3? That wouldn't surprise me either. That's probably where his draft range is. Late round 2 to mid round 4. I would feel comfortable taking him at the tail end portion of round number 3 and any time afterwards, because there's talent there. I just think when you look at the package that you've got, and you have to sit there and wonder, just how much of what they did at Oklahoma. And again, mind you, it's almost Madden-like in the sense that you're playing against computer-led defenses, which tend to suck anyways. That's kind of what you feel like when you watch Big 12 offense versus Big 12 defense. So many of those games end 66-58 or crap like that. And you wonder how much DeDe Westbrook just padded his stats. And frankly, again, he was a one-year wonder. So a lot of concerns there. Reasons for hope that he could pan out, but also some real reasons that he's always going to be a tantalizing tease that will never reach his full potential.